Can you hear me?
Yes, Kübra, we can hear you.
Okay, Ahmet Hocam. Now that everyone's here, we can get started. Hello, dear participants. I would like to welcome all of you to the 8th International Student Congress of our university. I'm Kübra Hastunç. I'm working as a research assistant at the Department of Political Science and International Relations. I will accompany you as a moderator in this 4B session. I'm a little sick, so forgive me if my voice is bad. As you know, the theme of this year's Congress is the global climate crisis and the new economic structure. There are very valuable studies about this issue in the session. And let me give you some information about the process. The time allotted for each of you is 15 minutes. Please use your time effectively before starting your presentations. I would like you to briefly introduce yourself and, if possible, turn on your cameras. And if you have a PowerPoint presentation, you can share it using the share screen button. And if you have some questions or some comments, please take notes during the presentations. I will take them at the end of the session. We can start with our first participant. This first participant is Masiha Ahmedi from Karabük University. Will give us presentation on U.S. war in Afghanistan. Yes, Masiha, I'm gonna make you the speaker. The floor is yours.
Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I am Masiha Ahmedi, student of Karabük University. Now I'm doing my Erasmus in Poland. So here I would like to present information about Afghanistan and how the terrorist attacks and this terrorist situation started in Afghanistan from the very beginning. So I would like to share my screen with you guys. I'm closing the camera and share the screen, my window. Can you guys see my window?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. First of all, I want to start it from 1979, where was Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Everything started from that point. First of all, I want to give information about the geographical location of Afghanistan, which is located in Central Asia. And then northern part we have Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. In south we have Pakistan, and east we have Iran, and in the west we have Pakistan, and that's also we have a small border with China. This is the location of it, which is in Central Asia, and it has that's why like a lot of conflicts happened in Afghanistan, why the superpowers have wanted to invade Afghanistan. The Soviet invasion started in December 1979. The war, which caused life of 15,000 Soviet soldiers and 1 million Afghans. It is also called a fight which was fought by USA gold and Afghan blood. It all started with the April 1978 military coup, and after the new leader came to power, Nur Muhammad Tariki, he needed support, so that's why he asked Soviet support. And when Soviet support started in Afghanistan, America found it like it would be risk if Afghanistan become under control of Soviet Union. So first American aid started, and the first American aid was communication equipment, which started in 1979. And when Ronald Reagan, U.S. president, came to power in 1980s, the first military aids started to give the internal Mujahideen, those who were fighting against the Soviet invasions. And in 1982, with the when Brezhnev died, after him, Gorbachev, the new leader, came to power. When he came to power, because he was a liberal leader, and he presented the two changes in the system. One was glasnost, which was freedom of speech, and the other one was a perestroika, which was restriction of the system. But because this Soviet invasion, it was a really difficult war for the Soviet, because they lost a lot of their soldiers, like approximately 2,000 soldiers every year. So it was a big damage for them, and also they wanted to stop the war. So in Geneva 1988, the peace agreement, they decided to end up the war and withdraw their troops from Afghanistan. But they had only one condition: if the US stopped supporting this internal groups who were fighting with the Soviet, like there was many groups inside Afghanistan who were fighting against the Soviet Union. But after Soviet Union withdrew their troops from Afghanistan, the civil war started, because there was many internal small groups which they were not having same ideology. That's why the civil war started. At the same time, we have Iraq invasion of Kuwait. In 1991, Iraq invaded Kuwait because Kuwait was a small country. It was very rich, oil-rich country, and also the Iraq believed that Kuwait was a part of their territory before. This invasion caused UN direct intervention, Operation Desert Storm, and after the operation finished, Saddam and troops went back to Iraq. Still, there was some American troops, United Nations troops, inside the holy land of Saudi Arabia, and this caused aggression of Osama bin Laden. And that's why many massive attacks happened. For example, in November 1995, massive bombing in Riyadh, and 1996 bombing in Tehran. Osama bin Laden was the leader of this terrorist group, Saudi terrorist, founder of pan-Islamic organization Al-Qaeda, which was the person behind all the terrorist attacks. Aftermath the Gulf War on the relation between the two countries. After end of the first Gulf War, Saddam Hussein was still in power in Iraq. The US stayed in Saudi Arabia, and that was the reason of aggression of Osama bin Laden, like existence of Americans in the holy land of Saudi. And they attempted many terrorist attacks, for example, Khobar Tower bombing in 1996 in Saudi Arabia, which caused life of 19 US soldiers. After that, in 2001, USA war in Afghanistan started, and the war in Iraq 2003. It all started with the accident on 9/11 incident of terrorist attack. 4 airplanes were hijacked. Can you guys hear me? I have problem with the connection, I think.
We can hear, Masya.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. 4 airplanes were hijacked. One of them were smashed to the World Trade Center, New York, the Twin Towers. The other one was west side of Pentagon, and the last one was unsuccessful and just fell in one of the in Pennsylvania. U.S. administration, especially Bush, believed that link of Al Qaeda with Afghanistan and Iraq. Also, President George W. Bush said that we would not distinguish between terrorists and countries which harbor them. After that, after the terrorist attacks, the creation of coalitions started. Tony Blair, which was the Prime Minister of UK, decided with Bush to start war on terror in Afghanistan. Donald Rumsfeld was Secretary of Defense. He also agreed that, like, he was the person who suggested the idea of invading Afghanistan and Iraq. It was December 2000 when Bush won election, and it was beginning of war on terror. The primary target was Afghanistan because on that time Osama bin Laden was hiding in Afghanistan, and also there was like Afghanistan was under control of Taliban terrorist group, and on Bonn Conference, December 2001, the U.S. Actually after the after Bush was elected, U.S. invaded Afghanistan, and there was many combats against Taliban, and the Osama bin Laden escaped to Pakistan. On Bonn Conference, December 2001, the provisional government was established in Afghanistan by the leading of Hamid Karzai, and it continued. And after that, in 2008, Barack Obama became president, and after when he became president, he promised that he will stop the war in Iraq, and also he will reduce his troops in Afghanistan. And they started to withdraw their military from 2014, and USA left Afghanistan on August 2021. 2003 invasion of Iraq. Because George administration believed that Saddam Hussein has a kind of link with the terrorist attacks of 9/11, and they believe that also in Iraq Saddam has support to Osama bin Laden, and also he has a kind of nuclear weapons. So that's why they wanted to start invading Iraq. And 9/11 attack represented a shock for the US. It fueled a will for revenge. 2001 Afghanistan, which we know now it was a failure for the US administration. Also, they believe that Iraq was on axis of evil. Axis of evil is a term which described Iran, Iraq, and North Korea for having or supporting the terrorist organization, and also having nuclear power inside their country. New conservatism. Bush administration gave also an explanation for intervention on the international stage. On that time, Bush explained like an explanation why they want to invade Iraq, and they said they suggested the preemptive war, and its explanation, or it's a term which they use it to legitimize the attack in advance to those who will attack them in future. They believe that Saddam or Iraq may present a kind of threat for them in future. So that's why they started invading them in 2003. On that time, there was a divided administration inside the US government, and division the administration, which were complicated the preparation to the war. There was new conservative Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, which was Secretary of Defense of America, and also Dick Cheney was Vice President. But also we had moderate like Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell, that these two politicians were against the war because they believed that there should be a kind of conditions, like also evidence to start a war in Iraq, but they didn't have evidence on that time. Failure. The only main success of the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq was the fall of Saddam Hussein regime. After the invasion of Iraq, the Saddam Hussein regime fell, and also the Saddam was executed in 2006. After that, there wasn't any plan for future of Iraq. Civil war started. The country was destabilized. ISIS expansion. there was no democracy. Still, there's no democracy in Iraq. The US military presence lasted until 2011. And also Bush lost the election in 2008 when Obama came to power because he wanted to win the election. He said that I will end the war in Iraq, which he did. The US position in the war. Result of US policy in the Middle East, Iraq is unstable, even now. Taliban took over Afghanistan again, that we can say the NATO and also the American operations inside Afghanistan against terrorist war and terrorist was failed. Iran is under Islamic Republic again. Relations with Saudi Arabia are really complicated. 9/11 attacks in the US, now after the operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, there's a kind of anti-Americanism feelings among people because of the failure which they has. Also, IS expansion, massive terrorist attacks happened in Western Europe in 2009, in 2004 and 2005, and I think it was in UK and Madrid. And also the US policy in Middle East completely destabilized the entire region. And the US position in the world today it is not an influential power in the Middle East anymore. Lost confidence in Western Europe. They have a kind of fear to engage in any kind of combat or any kind of conflict. As we can see, the US military didn't engage in Syrian conflict in 2014, and also now in Ukraine conflict. They are not trying to engage in any kind of military operation. Distrust in American model, rise of anti-Americanism, and the impossibility to spread democracy through the war, as it failed in Afghanistan. And that's all. Actually, the presentation was really long, and I cannot present it all only in 15 minutes. I hope you understand something from my presentation, and if there's any kind of question, you can note it and ask me. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Masia. If you have questions or comments, I will take them at the end of the session, as I said before. We can continue with next participant, the second participant, Rojun Pen from Gwangju Maritime University. Will give us a presentation on reflections on the relationship between economy and culture under global climate change. So the floor is yours, Rojun. You can start.
Yes. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay.
Masia, can you stop the screen share?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rachel, coming from Guangzhou Maritime University. I feel very honored and delighted to participate in 360-degree Congress program. Today, I will deliver a speech on constructing a greener future. Before that, let me tell you about the content of the speech. First, threats of climate change. Second, the relationship between low carbon economy and low carbon culture. Third, how can we reduce carbon footprint? Fourth, new lifestyle. To begin with, I will show you some pictures of environmental pollution. Nowadays, the world has recently seen immense and severe climatic changes all over, ranging from shrinking glaciers, rising sea level, to declining grain output, to dying wildlife. Next, This picture suggests the average decline in biodiversity by regions from 1970 to 2016. There are 6 major threats to Earth's biodiversity, and here climate change accounts for 6% decline of biodiversity. The issue has been persisting since 1830s and has fired a warning shot of human existence. Therefore, it's imperative to take preventive measures to eradicate the worst of these effects. That's why about 130 countries and regions have set a legally binding target of carbon neutrality and reached consensus of green, low carbon and sustainable development. All of these impacts have proved that developing a low carbon economy is an inevitable choice for future world economy. So, how to define the low carbon economy? In essence, low carbon economy is to improve energy efficiency and create a clean energy structure with technological innovation, institutional innovation and transformation of development concept at its core. In short, it is characterized by 3 aspects: low energy consumption, low pollution, low emissions. This is widely accepted by Chinese people, even the whole world. In such new model, people need to create a new kind of culture to satisfy their development needs. That is low carbon culture. So, what's the definition? It refers to people's awareness and behavior of low carbon in production practice and cultural life. In activities involving material and energy consumption, low carbon culture should not only meet the conditions of low carbon economy, but also the needs of human development. And culture can be reflected in various fields and at different levels, like customs, habits, modes of protection, lifestyle, education, science, value, beliefs, etc. However, under such circumstances, we should consider about how to meet the needs of human all-round development while controlling carbon emission. This problem teaches a lesson. Low carbon culture plays out of tune with low carbon economy, and we need further exploration to seek out the inner link between low carbon economy and the culture. We have ignored the power of low carbon culture. Actually, culture can be a driving force to economy behind personal or group creativity. Economic transformation must be supported by culture. Without relying on culture, economic transformation is bound to fail. Because when the needs of human development cannot be met, the economy cannot develop sustainably. Therefore, the key to the sustainable development lies in the interdependence and common prosperity of economy and culture. In the process of promoting economic transformation, China overemphasized tangible forces while ignoring the intangible ones. This exactly shows that the new culture is not in harmony with the low carbon economy. Therefore, we need to maximize the potentials of low carbon culture. In my opinion, the urgent task is to build a low carbon society where each individual can cultivate concept of sustainable development, green environmental protection, and a civilized low carbon culture. As a member of society, we should take some actions to reduce its pollution because a small action can have a great impact. If everyone gets involved in low carbon campaign, we can better construct a greener future. So how can we reduce our carbon footprint? I'll talk about it mainly from 4 aspects: clothing, food, housing, and transport. All of these are necessities in our lives. When it comes to clothing, do you know how much pollution does it cause to environment? Let me show you some statistics. These show that how strong the global demand for clothing is and how serious pollution is. Unfortunately, according to the survey of China Circular Economies Association, About 26 million tons of old clothes are thrown into the trash can in China every year, and the recycling rate of the old clothes is less than 1%. As you know, if old clothes are burned or buried as garbage, it will pollute the environment. There are some useful tips of clothing. We can buy less new clothes, reduce washing, dry our clothes naturally, rent our clothes, choose eco-friendly products, renovate and donate old clothes. When talking about food, I suggest everyone eat less meat but more plant-vegetarian. On the left side, we can see the comparison of the carbon footprint of protein-rich foods. The conclusion is that 75% of protein production creates between 3 and 11 kilogram carbon footprint equivalent per 100 gram protein, and only produces 3% of carbon emissions. By contrast, 25% of protein production creates more than 11 kilogram carbon footprint equivalent per 100 grams protein and produces 70% of carbon emissions. So, eating more vegetable, less meat is the most effective way for individuals to reduce their dietary footprint. Besides how to make our home environmental friendly, we should choose low carbon decorations. For example, we should avoid too many lights, dark lights, and lights with complex colors. Also, we should choose furniture made of rattan, bamboo, or other eco-friendly materials. Last but not least, we can choose appropriate transport when going out. Shown on the graphic, the carbon intensity decreases as distance increases. That's because takeoff consumes more energy than the cruise phase of flight. Of course, walking, cycling, and running are the least carbon-intensive ways to get from one place to another. Car sharing, electric vehicles, public transport can also reduce emissions. In medium and long distance travel, the train is the most environmentally friendly choice. For short distance, domestic travel, driving is better than flying. Under the new economic model, a new low-carbon culture is born. Under this new cultural model, people need to change lifestyle in order to better meet their development needs. From my perspective, firstly, new lifestyle is the inheritance and innovation of Chinese traditional culture. Environmental protection and green are modern concepts, but they are not modern notions. During the Song Dynasty, there was an environmental protection department called the Ministry of Yu. Each state and county also set up the post of agricultural teacher, which was employed by people with agricultural and forestry knowledge to provide technical guidance for people to plant crops and trees. The Song government paid special attention to afforestation. When we unfold the picture of along the river during the Qingming festival, we can see that there are trees on both sides of the roads in bustling city. This is the result of the Song government's vigorous promotion of greening. Secondly, the new life model is driven by the concept of sustainable development. Young people is the major contributor to low-carbon economy. The report found 3 major changes in people's understanding of sustainable development, which injects new life into the low-carbon culture. First, transfer from external stimuli to internal ones. In the past, young people's sustainable behavior was also often driven by external conditions. They often learned climatic issues through negative reports, resulting in anxiety and fear, so they will take actions. However, these actions are often temporary. Under the continuous negative stimuli, young people begin to show compassion fatigue and feel powerless about bad impacts. Now, starting from the daily life, they notice that a sustainable lifestyle can truly bring the benefits of low carbon, which can affect more young people to choose a sustainable lifestyle. Secondly, transfer from single behavior to multiple life scenes. most young people will not talk about sustainability. It is often difficult to arouse their interest to save water and electricity, classify garbage, and reduce the use of disposable plastic products. But if you look more broadly and see the diversity of young people's life scenes, you will see that young people often unconsciously start their own sustainable lifestyle. Thirdly, transfer from long-term brand goals to current concrete results. Many brands will show their 3-year goals, 5-year plan, and 2030 goals, which helps to foster sustainable behavior. However, for young people, these goals are too abstract. It is necessary for young people to perceive the concrete and visible effects of a sustainable lifestyle, so that they feel real and worthy, and further promote their sharing and affect the people around them. In conclusion, only each individual take actions can the low-carbon society operating system work and bring long-term benefits. We can take part in social activities in our own way and lead the culture to better serve the economy and make the low-carbon social system operate better. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Rojun, for your comprehensive presentation. So we can continue with third participant, Safiullah Ricabi. He's from Karabük University. He will share with us his work titled Migration and Refugee Definitions and Rights Regarding International Laws and an Analysis of Ongoing Refugee Crisis. Yes, Safiullah Ricabi, the floor is yours. You can start.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear Safiullah.
And can you see the screen? Is it clear?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, hello everyone, my name is Safiullah Ricabi. I'm a bachelor student of International Relations Department in Karabük University. Today I would like to have a quick presentation about the migration, refugee and international law. My presentation can be divided in 3 parts. The first one is migration, who is a migrant, migrant rights, refugee and international law, refugee crisis, and the third part would be differences between refugee and migrant and some refugee crisis. So starting firstly with the migration, we know that the migration is not something new in the world. Since the earliest time and during the world history, humanity has been on the move always. And the reasons for their moves differs every time during the world history. Sometimes it can be as a result of work, economic opportunities, to join family or to study. Other moves can be regarded as to escape from conflict, persecution, terrorism, or human rights violations. And also there are still other moves in response to adverse effects of climate change, natural disasters, or other environmental factors. So these are the reasons that why migration is happening, or it happened throughout the world history. Let's have a quick definition of who is a migrant. According to IOM, which is the International Organization for Migration, it defines a migrant as any person who is moving or has moved across an international border or within a state away from his or her habitual place of residence, regardless of their, firstly, the person's legal status, then whether the movement is voluntary or involuntary. The third one is what the causes for the movements are, and last but not least, what the length of the stay is. Also, as migration is an old concept, we should also know that these migrant people have some rights, rights which are also present in under the international laws and customs. Migration rights are the rights of migrants that are implicitly or explicitly impressed in the international human rights and public law instruments. Migrant rights resources can be found in international treaties, human rights conventions, and other branches of international public law, including but not limited to refugee law, transnational criminal law, especially treaties relating to human trafficking and smuggling, humanitarian law, labor law. So the rights of migrants are not something to be ignored, as they're also present in the international laws and treaties. Regarding the rights of migrants, there are many more conventions and treaties, and here I would like to name some of these rights and treaties that gave rights to the migrations. For example, the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1963 International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, the 1966 International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, 1966 International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the 1966 another one, International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discriminations, also the other conventions on the year 1979, 1984, 1989, 1990, 2006, and 2007, and these covenants and these conventions, which are also regarded as international laws, there are clearly the rights of migrants explained in these treaties or conventions. Also, this cannot be concluded about these conventions, as there are much more of them, which are trying to explain who is a migrant and what are the rights of migrants. To examine some of them, in 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the article number 1 of it says that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and a conscience against one another and a spirit of brotherhood. The article number 3 of this declaration says that everyone has the right to live life, liberty, and security of person. The second part of my presentation was about the refugee. First of all, we should know how is a refugee status needed. So according to international law and domestic laws of most states, states are the main protectors of individual rights of their citizens and people residing in that country. So every state is responsible to provide the security and safety for their citizens, or everyone that is residing in that country or state. The other condition that is needed is governments of home country can no longer protect the basic rights. Another case, when the country cannot provide the basic rights for their citizens, then again refugee status would be needed. They can apply for that. Not able or willing, or also the government is not able to protect their citizens, or individuals are forced to leave to seek safety in another country. So in these 4 or 3 conditions, anyone has the right, it's the human rights, to go and seek for protection and refugee status in any other country that includes these international laws in their constitution or in their domestic laws. Also, there is another Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Article number 14, Part 1. It says that everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. Individuals can get use of this declaration or can seek asylum or protection in countries that are providing refugee or asylum status. This point is very much important in this case, that not all countries are part of this convention. Only those countries or states that are accepting this convention and are a signatory of this declaration or the refugee conventions, they can provide refugee or asylum, not all of the countries. Also in here it says that this declaration is not binding to all states, as states may or may not apply this rule. They may accept or does not accept this declaration of human rights. It's totally belong to the state. There is another definition of refugee by UNHCR. UNHCR, according to UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee, a refugee is defined for a person who falls under these situations. First, escaped persecution for reason of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion. Second, armed conflict which may be rooted in and or conducted along lines of race, ethnicity, religion, politics, gender, or social divides. Third, violence perpetrated by organized gangs, traffickers, and other non-state actors against which the state is unable or unwilling to protect. The other one is persecution on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. And the last one is disasters, which may include drought or famine, where they are linked to the situation of persecution or armed conflict. So these are some of the terms or some of the situations that the UNHCR defines that we can define a refugee in these situations. As a refugee is also a part of international law, it's also important for us to know the sources and the legal sources of refugee. International refugee law derives from a range of treaties, universal and regional, the rules of customary international law, general principles of law, and national laws and standards. It's the one source of legal source of refugee laws. The other one is the 1951 Refugee Convention. The other one is the 1967 Protocol relating to the status of refugee. The other source of it is international law defines who is a refugee and who is not. And the last one, and not the least, we can say that international law specifies the range of rights they are entitled. There are some important articles regarding the refugees in 1971 Refugee Convention, which I would like to share also. In Article number 2, there are some general obligations which says that any refugee that is residing or living in a country or seeking for protection in that country, that person has also some duties to do it regarding that country. For example, they should conform or they should obey the laws and regulations of that country. Then Article number 3, it says the non-discrimination. It says that the person or the country that giving the protection or asylum or refugee for any person, that the state cannot do any discrimination against these people or person based on their race, religion, or anything else. The Article number 4 of this is about the religion, which says the contracting states shall accord to refugees within their territory treatment at least as favorable as that accord to their nationals with respect to freedom to practice their religion and freedom as regards the religious education of their children. It means that this convention also provides the refugee seekers to have the free practice of the religion, to practice the religion freely. Also, there are some more basic or general rights for refugees. We can divide this in 4. The first one is non-refoulement, which is most important, which means that the countries that is hosting for those people, they cannot forcibly take the refugees by force, take them back to their country of origin, or they cannot remove them or kick them out of their country by force. The second right, which is also most important, is the identity, as identity is very important for living in a country. Without identity, you cannot go to somewhere, you cannot apply for any official jobs or anything. The third one is freedom of movement. The country should provide them the freedom of movement within the country. There should not be any restriction for the person who is having refugee status, but they are not free of movement. And the last one is a right to family. Refugee families or persons have a right to family. It means they can marry, they can have sons and children, and the state should not ignore their rules regarding the right to family. Also, we can say, how does UNHCR distinguish between a refugee and a migrant? There is a huge misunderstanding between the refugee and a migrant. However, these two concepts are completely different, if not completely, but they are different from each other. As UNHCR differentiating between these two as like this: migrant normally leaves a country voluntarily to seek a better life. Migrant is referred to a person who is out of their origin country for any reasons. That reason might be study, business, work, and etc. Should he or she elect to return home, they would continue to receive the protection of their government. Refugee flee because of the threat of persecution and cannot return safely to their homes in their prevailing circumstances. So these are some basic differences that UNHCR defines the differences between a refugee and a migrant. The other most important difference between them, exactly, I mean the legal difference between them, we can say that the distinction between these two is that while refugees are under the responsibility of international law, but migrants are bound by the national law. The last part of my presentation is about the refugee crisis. First of all, I would like to define what is refugee crisis. We can say that refugee crisis can refer to difficulties and dangerous situations in the reception of large groups of forcibly displaced persons. These could be either internally displaced refugees or asylum seekers or any other huge groups of migrants. Refugee crises that are common and we are familiar with them, they have the highest number of refugees in the world. As per ranking, we can say the first is Syria, which have the hugest number of refugees. The other one is Venezuela, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, South Sudan, Myanmar, Democratic Republic of Congo, Central Sahel, which is an African country, Somalia, and Central African Republic. These are the countries that they are facing or they are going through the refugee crisis from long years. According to the UNHCR reports, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, it says as of January 2019, it says that about 70.8 million people has been displaced worldwide, in which 41.3 million are displaced internally and 25.9 million people are displaced externally. Between 2014 and 21, at least 1,500 people tried to cross the Mediterranean towards Europe, and at least 22,848 people died during the attempt, which is a huge number. And it's the end. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you so much, Safullah. We can continue with the fourth participant, Qin Yu, also from Guangzhou Maritime University, will present his work on the ideology and policies of sustainable development. Yes, you can start, Qin Yu. The floor is yours. You can share your screen.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me always?
We can hear you. We can start.
Okay. Can you watch my screen?
Yes, you can start.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tanit. I come from Guangzhou Maritime University in China, and my topic of the presentation is the ideology and the policies of sustainable development. And my presentation can be divided into three parts. The first part is the ideology origins of sustainable development, and the second part is the theory of the sustainable development, and the last part is the policies of sustainable development. I will take China as an example. Let's begin on the first part. Ideology origins of the sustainable development. As we all know, the developed countries of the West were the cradle of the industrial civilization and the first to suffer the vengeance of nature. Therefore, the valuable idea of sustainable development was born in the West. The Industrial Revolution, which began more than 200 years ago, brought unprecedented economic prosperity to human society, but also reinforced the brightness and subjective will of human beings to demand resources from nature without restraint. Thus, leading to a path of economic development with high production, high consumption, and high pollution, with GDP growth as the primary goal. Obviously, this unsustainable development model eventually caused and continuously intensified nature's retaliation. In particular, since the 1950s, some developed countries have been the first to enjoy the greatly improved material life due to GDP growth, but also the first to chew the bitter fruit of the unsustainable industrialization, with repeated environmental hazards of all kinds causing illness and death in thousands of people. And I will list some dependent events about the sustainable development in the international meetings. Initially, it was a group of scholars in the 1960s and the 1970s who thought deeply about the issues of unsustainability of development. The concern about the environmental damage was first expressed by the American woman scientist Cashin in her 1962 book.
Tani, I'm sorry for my interruption, but your slide, your presentation is not progressing. Stuck on first slide. Can you try again? Okay, we can see.
You can see it?
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, okay. So in her Can you watch my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. You can continue with your presentation.
Okay. Sorry. On her 1962 book, The Silent Sprint, the landmark 1972, the report of the craft of Roma, the limits to growth, was the first to address the issue from a systematic perspective. The limits to growth was the first study to examine population growth, the growing ecological footprint of human activities, and its physical impact on our finite planet from a systematic perspective. This masterpiece has had a major impact on the world. Its authors warned that if the growth trends in population, industrialization, and resource use and pollution continue unabated, we will reach and exceed the Earth's carrying capacity sometime in the first decades of the 21st century. Over the past half century, the findings of the limits to growth have proven remarkably accurate. The world's population and economy continue to grow, and as a result, humanity now finds itself facing an unprecedented planetary emergency. In the same year, the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, held in Stockholm, Sweden, was the first worldwide reminder at the level of national governments of the need to change the conventional notion that the world is actually infinite, and is thus considered to be the first time that human society in 1983, the United Nations set up a World Commission on Environment and Development, which was called upon to set a global agenda for change with sustainable development as its basis principle in 1992. The United Nations Conference on Environment and Development was held in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, which adapted to Rio Declaration on Environment and Development Agenda 21, the United States Framework Convention on Climate Change, and other historic documents, making the conference a milestone for human society to transform traditional development models and lifestyles and follow the path of sustainable development. And the second relationship is the sustainable and the Chinese traditional culture. And I found the data from the traditional culture, and ancient Chinese book Zhou Yi says the greatest morality on the earth is to love the creature. E is the essence of natural creation and change. A fact of nature, and the creation and change of nature is the realization of the virtue of nature, which is the value of nature. The same nature from the point of weight of fact. It is in essence internal change. From the point of view of value, its significance lies in the endless creative vitality. Traditional Chinese culture holds that human beings, like all other things, are natural products of the earth. Human society is the result of natural development, and human beings are a part of nature. The ancient Chinese thought of harmony between nature and man is not only speculative and aesthetic, but also policy and the practice. In the Analects of Confucius and the Brood of Zhou-Yi, put forward the proposition of no big nets to catch fish and no broad to shoot perched birds, but let them go. When fishing in rivers and lakes is closed, do not cast nets, let fish grow up. With the intention of warning people to make moderate. The idea is to want people to use nature moderately and not to distract the growth pattern of the plant and animal themselves. And the third relationship is the sustainable development and the Marxism. The Marxism regards the relationship between man and nature as a whole and believes that man is directly a nature being. A history of human social development is a history of nature development. In his article, in Engels' article, The Role of the Labor in the Transformation from Ape to Man, Engels summarized the lessons learned from the transformation of nature during the origin and development of mankind and wants mankind let us not revel too much in our human victories over nature. The nature will take revenge on us. And let's go to the second part, the theories of sustainable development. This part divided into two sections. The first one is the basic connotation of sustainable development, and the second part is the basic principle of sustainable development. The basic connotation of sustainable development. The exacting definition of sustainable development are given from the perspective of four disciplines. From the ecological perspective, the concept of sustainability was first introduced by ecologists to refer to ecological continuity and has been used as a basis for a number of definitions of sustainable development. Development was defined as the protection and enhancement of the productive and regenerative capacity of environmental systems. And from the economist perspective, this perspective emphasizes the unity of ecology and economics, but lens on sustainable economic growth, arguing that the core of sustainable development is economic development. The earliest definition of the economic perspective was given by Hick Linda. It expressed as the maximum benefit from assets without compromising the interests of future generations. And the third perspective is the sociology. This perspective emphasizes not only the unity of ecology and economies, but also the link between ecology and sociology, as pointed out in Our Common Future. Well, Environmental and economic issues are linked to many social and political factors. It emphasizes the sustainability of social development, which ultimately ends up in human society, that is, improving the quality of human life and creating a better environment. And the last perspective is about the technology. Sustainable development is about moving to cleaner, more efficient technologies that are as close to zero emission or closed process methods as possible and reduce the consumption of energy and other natural resources as possible. And the best principle of sustainable development divides three principles with regard to the basic principle of sustainable development. The world today is generally guided by the three basic principles of sustainable development set forth by the ex-Prime Minister of Norway, Mr. Brundtland, in the report Our Common Future of the United Nations World Commission on Environment and Development, which she declared in 1987. These three principles are the principle of equity and the principle of sustainability and the principle of commonality. First, the principle of equity includes two levels of meaning. One is the intergenerational equity, that is meeting the needs of the present without jeopardizing the ability of future generations to meet their demands. And the second is interpersonal equity, that is sustained development requires meeting the basic demands of all people and giving all people the opportunity to meet their aspiration for a better life and the basic needs of the world's poor people, which should be given special priority. This requires that the best needs of the world's poor people be given special priority and that developing countries should provide financial resources, technology transfer, and assistance to developing countries in order to support their sustainable development. And second, the principle of sustainability. It refers to principle that human economy and social development must conform to the principle of sustainability. That is, while seeking to develop to meet demands, the constraints to development should be estimated. Sustainable development includes two important concepts, one of which is demand and the other is limitation. That is, the current state of technologies and the social organization and their impact on environmental resources and the biosphere's ability to absorb the impact of human activities, and the resulting limitation on development, the limits to development. The third, the principle of commonality. Commonality is specifies the interrelationships between the individuality and the commonality of each country's sustainable development path. In other words, countries with different national conditions can adopt different sustainable development models and paths, but sustainable development as an overall goal of global development embodies the principle of equality and the continuity that should be commonly observed by all countries. The last part is the practice, is about the policies of sustainable development in China. Shortly after the 1992 United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, the Chinese government organized the preparation of China Agenda 21, China's white papers on population, environment and the development in the 21st century. And today, The general idea of China's strategy to promote sustainable development can be summarized in the following 5 sentences. The first one is to transform the mode of economic development and make strategic adjustments to the economic structure as an important decision to promote sustainable economic development. The second is building a resource-conserving and environment-friendly society. The third one, take ensuring and improving people's well-being as the core requirement of sustainable development. And the next one is take scientific and technological innovation as an inexhaustible driving force for promoting sustainable development. The last one is the deepen institutional reform and expand opening up and cooperation as the basic guarantee for sustainable development. And today, the Chinese government still steps on their way to motivate sustainable development in China keep going. That's all I have to show today. Thanks for your listening.
Thank you so much, Tani. Sorry for my mispronunciation your name, by the way. And we can continue with the next participant, Yunus Sharifli from University of Bologna, will share with us information about his work on China's presence in Arctic, opportunities and challenges. Yes, Yunus, can start with your presentation.
Thank you very much. My name is Yunus Sharifli. At the moment, I am studying at the University of Bologna for my master's degree. I'm deeply interested in the China's foreign policy in the context of the Belt and Road Initiative and generally the China-Russia relationship. I'm sorry I haven't got presentation because my presentation, actually my topic is related to the recent topics, especially in the context of the how Russia-Ukrainian war affect China's presence in the Arctic region. Because we know that in the recent years there is a growing discussion between the experts and academics that how China see the opportunities and challenges in Arctic region, because especially two factors play important role for Chinese government and also Chinese companies that they want to involve Arctic issues or the general the Arctic region. First is that Northern Sea Route, because Northern Sea Route is one of the important part of the Arctic region, because by the way of the Northern Sea Route, Chinese companies have a chance to improve their connectivity between the European Union, because Northern Sea Route for sending the cargo from, for example, China to the European Union, the approximately arrival time is 15 or 18 days in comparison with the Suez Canal, because for sending the cargo via the Suez Canal requires 30 days. There are differences between the time and the arrival. That's why this play important role for Chinese companies that improve their connectivity for European Union and the European market. The second important factor is that Arctic, we know that Arctic has a huge oil and gas reserves, and Chinese companies also, in the companies level, the Chinese companies also want to improve their energy security, diversify their portfolio, expand their influence, also gain competitive experience, because Arctic shelf and Arctic energy fields is different from the South China Sea and also other part of the world, because they require different technology and different experience. In the government level, actually the Chinese governments also want to diversify import and export routes of the oil and gas, the import and export, because it's they want to secure long-term energy security. And we know that at the moment there are growing competition between the liquid natural gas market. There are a lot of energy problem because of the Russian-Ukrainian war, and this factor is also playing an important role that government wants to involve Arctic region and extract resource for secure its long-term energy security. But as I noted, for the Northern Sea Route and the energy factor play important role, but there are also a lot of challenges for China, especially in terms of the technological capacity, because we know that actually in the most of time Western companies invest and support and service the Russia for extracting the resource, oil and gas resource in the Arctic region, but there are still problems in the Chinese companies in terms of the technology. I would like to emphasize the two important factors, actually three important factors. First is the shipbuilding. Second is that exploring and discovering the onshore and offshore production in the Arctic region, because both of them require the huge technological capacity, which at the moment Western companies has, but Chinese companies has a partially experience and technology. I would like to start first the shipbuilding, because in the Arctic region for transportation, for LNG from one destination to another destination, or carrying the liquid natural gas, for example, from Russia to China, or from Russia to European Union, the European market, they need to ice class LNG tankers, because ice class LNG tankers is extremely important for preventing the problems related to the ice, low temperature, and also reach the destination. But at the moment, especially the Korean companies play important role, because they have a huge technological, sophisticated technological capacity. For example, the two important ship play important the role, RSC-4 and RSC-7, because they have a technological capacity to break the ice, and they have a technological capacity to carrying huge level of the liquid natural gas, also the oil, to different destinations. But in comparison with the Korean and also Western companies shipbuilding technology, at the moment China's companies have a chance to construct conventional LNG carriers that they mostly sensitive to ice, and they have a less carrier capacity. And actually Chinese companies have also some target for the 2023 or 2025 that they also construct the same the ships. But as I noted before, they require huge technological cumulative knowledge and experience. The one challenges for the China and also Chinese companies that improve their technological capacity in terms of constructing these ships, because they also relying also Daewoo, especially the Korean companies Daewoo, for delivering their LNG, the energy resource to, for example, Russia or the European Union. They also order from the Korean shipyards that for delivering RS-7 or RS-4 ice-class LNG carriers. Second problem is, as I noted before, discovering and exploring the onshore and offshore production in the Arctic region. We know that China's first successful project in terms of the onshore production is Yamal LNG. Since 2014, when the Russia-Ukrainian war started, we know that the European Union and United States put different sanctions on Russia. At the moment also they add another part of the sanction on Russia. They all constrain Russians' capacity to access Western technology and Western capital. That's why China involved Yamal LNG project. They provide technology and also the capital, but the technology part is extremely important, because it's the first project that China produced 80% of the Yamal LNG equipment in Chinese shipyard, and also they produced one of the core the equipment for the LNG Yamal LNG. The project name is Module Fabrication Work Package, play critical role. And at the moment they also invest to Arctic LNG 2 project, and they all show that in comparison with the shipbuilding capacity, Chinese companies at least have a partial technology for onshore production, expand their production in the Arctic shelf, and also help for example, Russian companies to improve also their technological capacity. But in comparison with the onshore production, offshore production is much complex and require totally different equipment. That's why, and also Chinese companies has less experience in terms of the offshore production, because despite the recent successful development in the, especially the Chinese companies CNOOCs, deep water oil and gas exploration in South China Sea and Boha Sea, the Arctic shelf require different equipment because of the severe weather conditions and also the ice condition. And that's why Chinese companies also has a lack of technology at the moment for improve their presence in the offshore production. But we have some few examples. For example, the cooperation between the CMPC and Rosneft in the Kara Sea and the Barents Sea. but they still need to also Western countries the technology, not just the Russian, but also the Chinese companies. But in overall, these all factors, shipbuilding and onshore and offshore production in the Arctic shelf, shows that China still has a technological constraint. Both the Russian and also Chinese companies need to Western critical technology and experience and support and service. But in addition, even if Chinese companies partially replace the Western countries in the Arctic region, because we know that because of the sanction, due to the sanction, a lot of energy companies, Shell, BP, Linde AG, and others, will start to withdraw from Russia. And there are a lot of news that Chinese companies replace these companies and fill the void. Actually, it's not possible. But even if we consider that in the onshore production, Chinese companies replace Western countries, there are also different challenges. First, important factor is sanctions, because we know that Chinese companies try to fit their also interest to national interest of the China's government, but parallelly they also work like a typical capitalist companies. They also try to calculate profit, risk, cost, and what's the positive and negative sides of the involving the Arctic shelf. And because they are also afraid the secondary sanction, because we already have some example, for example, Sinopec's decision to suspending the talks, joint gas venture in Russia, Chinese shipyards decision to halt cooperation with the Arctic LNG 2. They all show that Chinese companies calculate the risk and benefits, and they saw that actually a lot of risks outweigh the positive sides involved in the Arctic shelves, because they are afraid to face secondary sanction and also lose their credibility, lose their access to Western technology and Western market that it's extremely important for Chinese companies than Russia. The second factor is that still for exploring, drilling require a high cost and high price in the Arctic. Another factor is that long-term payback. The Chinese companies need to wait long-term for return their investment, return their money. That's why it's also another challenge for Chinese companies that this factor discouraged to involve the Arctic shelf, in the Russian Arctic especially. And final factor is that Russia's own national strategy, the called import substitution strategy, they try to improve their domestic technology and domestic equipment. That's why they prevent not just European countries, but also partially the Chinese companies that involve Arctic, because they think that if they leave the all opportunities to China or Chinese companies, after a while they start to increase their dependence on Russia. That's why they prefer mostly their own national champions. That's why we assume that in the short and medium term, due to the sanctions and high cost of the drilling and exploration in the Arctic, discourage Chinese companies to involve Arctic shelf, and they probably continue to import just LNG and also gas and oil, conventional gas and oil from Russia, but they tend to less involve and invest to Arctic, Russian Arctic, for onshore and offshore production. And this factor, as a result of which we assume that in the long term, the China continue to its strategic ambiguity policy in terms of Russia, and try to invest different parts of the region for energy production, and try to improve its relations with not just Russia, but also other Arctic countries, Finland, Canada, United States, for gaining knowledge, for gaining access to the markets, and also get technological experience. This is my last sentences. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Yunus Şerefli. In the sixth place, Zishao Xie from Guangzhou Maritime University will give his presentation titled New Situation of Global Digital Economy and Opportunities and Challenges for China. Are you here, Zishao Xie?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear. The floor is yours.
I will share my screen. Can you see my PPT?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's very nice to be here today. I'm Li Xiaoxie from China. My university is Guangzhou Maritime University. My topic is new situation of global digital economy and opportunities and challenges for China. My presentation can be divided into 4 parts. There are new situation of global digital economy, problems and challenges under the new situation, China's problems and challenges under the new situation, and finally is the conclusion. Let's turn to the first part, new situation of global digital economy. Nowadays, the digital economy around the world is developing rapidly. From this chart, it can be seen that in 2015, developing and transition countries accounted for 70% of the world's internet users, with the largest numbers in China and India. Only 4 developed economies feature among the top 10 internet users. Meanwhile, in Brazil, India, Mexico, and Nigeria, the annual growth rate of internet use were between 4 and 6% from 2012 to 2015, whereas the growth rate has been much slower in developed economies, except for Japan, as the markets have already reached near saturation. And until 221, the number of internet users in the world are over 4.7 billion. Owing to this, telecommunication, digital service, e-commerce, all kinds of digital economy are booming. At the same time, countless decent jobs can be provided and they have a bright future. Also, more and more people choose to purchase online and participate in social network. What's more, the Asia-Pacific region has experienced particularly rapid economic growth. From this picture, although the advanced digital technologies and developed financial markets in Europe and the United States, the Asia-Pacific region plays an important role in the rapid development of digital economy in terms of the production and consumption of ICT products. ICT is information and communication technology. From an e-commerce perspective, 3 of the top 4 e-commerce markets in the world are in the Asia-Pacific region: Japan, China, and South Korea. Some of the largest e-commerce platforms, such as Alibaba in China, Flipkart in India, and Lazada, also located in Asia. In the past, the share of small companies receiving orders online is consistently lower than that of giant companies. With the development of digital economy, lots of small and medium-sized companies can sell their digital service online. Digital technology can help them cut costs, simplify its supply chain, and market its products and services more easily around the world. In addition, the development of the digital economy can provide women in developing countries with new help in entrepreneurship, including ease of mobility, greater time freedom, access to finance, and skills training. Some women can do housework while engaging in online business. They can better gain understanding and support from their families. And then the second part is problems and challenges under the new situation. From these 2 charts, it's clear that the gap between the regions is obvious. While the digital economy brings tremendous benefits, the winner-takes-all possibilities in a platform-based economy are also clear. Network effects benefit early movers and standard setters. The world's top 4 companies by market capitalization are all closely tied to the digital economy: Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. Besides, the uneven development of digital economy among countries is getting wider and may further lead to the widening income gap between the rich and the poor. In many developing countries, infrastructure is poor and many small and medium-sized enterprises are at risk of missing out on opportunities to increase productivity and competitiveness if developing countries are not effectively encouraged to build a digital economy. The digital divide between them and developed countries is likely to widen beyond catch-up. The benefits of digital economy are huge, and many developing countries hope to take advantage of digital economy to develop economies. However, many countries will face relevant policy challenges in building a digital economy environment, mainly including three aspects. First, it's difficult to formulate digital economy policies. Policy formulation of digital economy involves different departments, requires multiple sources, and will influence existing interests. It's a work that requires a government to do well in top-level design and have excellent management ability. At present, some developing countries are still at a low level of preparation for the digital economy. Whether the government can coordinate these departments and mobilize sufficient resources to carry out digital economy policies, formulation and implementation is still difficult for these countries. Second, there are not enough talent. In the era of digital economy, the talents needed cover top-level policy design, corporate governance, equipment manufacturing, e-commerce, logistics, and other levels of talent. After graduation, relevant professionals flow to developed countries, and they are unable to attract foreign talent. It's not easy to meet the requirements of various types of talent, which inhibits the motivation of these countries to develop the digital economy. Third, adequate infrastructure. Many countries lack communication infrastructures to meet the requirements of digital economy, such as wireless spaces, such as wireless base stations and broadband equipment, which cannot achieve high network coverage, or the existing facilities are aging, which cannot meet the current era's technical standards, or lack of suitable terminal equipment, so that more people can't access the network. And the rapid development of digital economy challenges the existing employment system. From the perspective of previous tech, let me guess. From the perspective of previous technological changes, at the initial stage of change, part of the labor force was replaced due to the improvement of production efficiency, but at the same time, new technologies and industries changed the production process and promoted economic development, also creating new employment opportunities, and many unemployed workers finally found jobs. The length of these transitions and the human and economic costs involved have posed challenges to the past society. Digitalization is transforming jobs across all sectors and economies and will create opportunities as well as challenges in developing countries. However, its overall effects remain uncertain. The main risk of digitalization is unlikely to be joblessness, but rather increased polarization and widening income equality. This is because most of the profit from productivity growth may not be widely shared. Rather, they will benefit capital owners and a few highly skilled workers. In this case, measures will need to be adapted to each country, taking into account the current state and level of education, training and skills, as well as the degree of digital connectivity and use. Irrespective of situation in countries today, they should start preparing for the future transformation. And then the third part is China's problems challenges under the new situation. China's digital economy has also become a global leader in commodity exports and e-commerce. This situation provides opportunities for China to promote further development in global markets and help developing countries improve their information technologies capabilities and develop the digital economy. At the same time, attention should be paid to addressing relevant challenges. Under the Belt and Road Initiative, China has invested in infrastructure in relevant countries, such as roads, telecommunications, technology, education, commerce, and so on. From the perspective of national endowment, the main characteristics of countries involved in the Belt and Road Initiative include high population density and balanced resources, high level of development, and great cultural differences. The development of digital economy can make full use of the strengths and circumvent the weakness. The openness and sharing of network information can bridge the differences between different levels of development and cultures. And from the perspective of wariness, China's domestic market is highly competitive, and many market segments are approaching saturation. The Belt and Road Initiative points out a new direction for enterprises. Enterprises of all types go global to help them establish internet systems in relevant countries, promote commerce, and share internet dividends. In terms of capacity, China's internet and digital economy-related enterprises, after years of market competition, have high innovation and operation capacity, have the ability to provide comprehensive supporting construction to the investment target. If developing countries cannot keep up with the pace of the digital economy era, they may fall into digital divide and cannot get rid of it. And the construction of digital economy will encounter challenges. China can lend a helping hand and work with them to build a digital economy that is both nationally appropriated and global integrated. In terms of policy making, China has initially had digital economy guidance and planning from central to local levels. Similar to foreign countries, there are differences in levels of development and culture across China. We can exchange experience with foreign governments on how to mobilize resources and coordinate department and deal with differences, and help them decide digital economy strategies or policies with low cost and quick results. In terms of infrastructure, China has reliable technical strengths which can help developing countries build corresponding infrastructure in a relatively short period of time, improve internet coverage, and increase the size of population connected to the internet. In terms of talent training, China has also experienced the stage of growing from weak to strong and has gained an understanding of what talents developing countries need at different stages to develop as quickly as possible and narrow the digital divide. according to the national conditions of different countries. Special training methods, such as theoretical teaching and on-site teaching, can be used to carry out targeted talent training, so as to help them establish a talent team for digital economy planning, construction, and operation. Under the new situation of digital economy, China's companies have good opportunities to enter other countries' markets and help them develop digital economy, but they still confront some challenges, mainly in the following three aspects. First, the economic policies of other countries are not open enough and often erect barriers. Some countries are concerned about the impact of Chinese products and services on the communications, equipment, and terminal product markets. Second, how to coordinate the development of local industries when China helps other countries to build digital economy. Many of the projects involve domestic enterprises to ensure the progress and quality of the project. But the investor hopes that the local industries can benefit from the construction process. How to not only ensure the interest of the participating enterprises in China, but also satisfy the concerns of the other party and promote the development of local industries is a problem facing policymakers and participating companies. Third, the challenge of international competition. Chinese enterprises have not participated in international competition for a long time and lack experiences. In many investment destination countries, they do not have local people or local institutions to rely on, and they are not familiar with the local situation. Therefore, they will possibly suffer losses when competing with internationally famous large companies. To help the development of Chinese enterprises in overseas, the relevant department in China should increase the manpower and money to help Chinese enterprises in the local market. Competition is far easier to get support. In conclusion, as new digital technologies continue to emerge and enter the stage of explosive growth, digital economy has exerted a huge impact on society and economy, brought different development opportunities to all countries, but also caused different challenges. In this situation, Chinese enterprises should take advantage of the Belt and Road Initiative, actively grasp the market opportunities, and have the courage to meet the challenges. In the international digital economy markets, give full play to their own strengths and create the new glory. Okay, so much for my presentation. If you have any questions, welcome to ask me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Zişao. Our last participant, Fatih Yarlu. Are you here, Fatih? I cannot see among the participants.
No, Yunus.
Yunus.
Yunus.
Yunus Emre.
Yes.
Okay, Yunus Emre. The floor is yours. You can start with your presentation. Zişao, can you stop your share screen? Thank you. Yunus Emre, can you hear me? He's not answering.
He's trying to share the slide, I think.
Okay. Okay Ahmet Hocam.
What happened? He's not participating, I think. What happened?
Yunus Emre is not here or... Okay, okay.
He did. Okay, yes.
Please make your PowerPoint presentation full screen. Yunus Emre. We cannot see your presentation. Only we see the Microsoft Teams page. Okay. Now we see your presentation. You can start.
Kübra, ses
Buyurun.
ses gelmiyor diyor da seni oradan kapatıyor mu sesin? Ne oluyor acaba?
Ben bakıyorum. Burada bir sıkıntı yok hocam.
Kendi kapalı görünüyor şu anda şeyde. Yunus abi sen oradan mikrofonun kapalı görünüyor. Onu aç yukarıdan.
Hemen tekrar bakıyorum.
Allah Allah. Telefondan girebiliyor musun sen bunu? Hı. Niye gelmek şimdi hayret ya? Olması lazım.
Sesi az bir şey geliyor arka plandan ama
Evet, bir şey diyor Kübra. He? Telefondan da girebilirsin istiyorsan ya. Telefon. He.
hocam sesi arka planda geliyor. Biraz yükseltmesi gerekiyor sanıyorum. Geliyor arka planda hafif sesi.
Bir dakika, kapat.
Telefondan geliyor, evet.
Hı.
İstersen kapatıp telefondan girebilirsin eğer oradan geliyorsa ses.
Senin sesi alıyor senin telefon. Yunus.
I use my megaphone, my feature.
Yes, you can use. He. Tamam.
Okay, I'm starting.
But we cannot see your PowerPoint presentation. Only we hear your voice. Will you use your PowerPoint presentation? Okay, we can see your PowerPoint. Yunus Emre, we cannot hear you. You can use your cell phone megaphone.
Kübra kapatıp yeniden geleyim dedi ama.
Tamam hocam, tekrar gelsin. Olmuyor çünkü.
Benim. Sen kapat çıktın mı? Çıkmadın ki ama. Evet, slide görünüyor ya, çıktım diyor. Öyle mi? Halen olmuyor mu şey? Ses gelmiyor. Allah Allah. Megafon dedin ne? Yani, buradan telefondan mı konuşayım diyorsun? Evet. Öyle.
Hocam olabilir, hoparlörden sesi geliyor gibi. Onu kullansın olmazsa.
Tamam.
Çok da bekletmeyelim.
Bir dakika. Tamam. Yani hoparlöre mi alayım sesi? Tamam. Kübra, şimdi telefondan hoparlöre alacağım. Bu şekilde duyuracağız. Olur mu?
Tamamdır hocam. Tamam.
Öyle yap. Tamam, ben çekeyim de. Şöyle
Tamam.
yapalım.
Hı-hı.
Tamam, şimdi konuş.
Şimdi geliyor mu sesin?
Evet geliyor Yunus Emre.
Tamam.
Tamam.
The topic is environmental policies of Turkey under global environmental policies. Environmental policy is a political area that provides to use of resources efficiently and sustainable to maximize living standards with the guarantee of human health. Global environmental problems such as climate change, desertification, loss of biodiversity, deforestation, destruction of the ozone layer, acid rains, air, water and soil pollutions, dangerous wastes, sea and ocean pollution, endanger the sustainability of the environment without recognizing political boundaries. Environmental policies try to solve these problems at their source. The solution of these problems is possible with the participation of public sector, private sector, non-governmental organizations, and bilateral, regional, or multilateral international cooperation.
Environmental issues have a global meaning. Environmental pollution occurring anywhere.
Sesi açıldı mı yoksa?
Anywhere
Ses
in the
açıldı
world
hocam.
is a...
Siz kapatabilirsiniz.
Evet.
Okay.
Environmental policies try to solve these problems at their source. The solution of these problems is possible with the participation of public sector, private sector.
Yunus Emre, çok özür diliyorum böldüğüm için. Bu sefer PowerPoint sunumun görünmüyor. Sesin geliyor ama.
Sanırım ikisi beraber
dene.
olmuyor.
Olmuyor mu? Bir dene, olmazsa en azından sesini duysak daha iyi gibi katılımcılar için. Sen yine bir dene, ikisini birlikte açabiliyorsan.
Deniyorum
Olmuyorsa sesten devam edelim. Şu an sesin
Şu an
gayet net
ikisi,
geliyor çünkü.
ikisi birden iyi mi şu anda?
Evet, şu an tamamdır.
Tamamdır. Environmental policies try to solve these problems at their source. The solution of these problems is possible with the participation of public sector, private sector, non-governmental organizations, and bilateral, regional, or multilateral international cooperation. Environmental issues have a global meaning. Environmental pollution occurring anywhere in the world is a common problem of the whole world. The international decisions about environmental protection creates difficulties for the developing countries because political measures for environmental protection causes capital escape from the countries. The measures taken to protect the environment cause additional costs such as chimney filters and waste management to the capital, which is eager to earn more. In this study, Turkey's integration into global environmental policies as a developing country is examined. Initiatives to find solutions to environmental problems have gradually started to be on the agenda of the international community since the 1960s. The 1972 Stockholm United Nations Human Environment Conference, the report named Our Common Future in 1970 1987 and the Rio Conference are the most important turning point for the environmental policy in international area. United Nations, EU, European Security Cooperation Organization, and OECD has been interested in environmental policies because of the global importance of environmental problems. Between 5 and 16 June 1972, at the United Nations Human Environment Conference, Stockholm Conference, held in Stockholm, many countries with different socioeconomic structures and development levels came together for the first time on the subject of environment. Sustainable development concept was defined for the first time in the Brundtland report prepared by the World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987 as development that meets today's needs without compromising its ability to meet the needs of future generations. United Nations Environment and Development Conference, organized in Rio de Janeiro between 3 and 14 June 1992, was an important step in the adoption of a set principles for nations to adopt environmentally responsible management types. In this context, in addition to Agenda 21, which is an action plan, Rio Declaration and Forest Principles were also adopted. In addition, during the conference, the United Climate Change Framework Convention and United Nations Biodiversity Convention were opened for signature. The United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, prepared in line with the decisions taken at the Rio Conference, was opened for signature in 1994. Another important event for international sustainable development is the Millennium Declaration adopted in the United Nations in Millennium. World Sustainable Development Summit was held in Johannesburg between 26 August and 4 September 2002 in order to follow the results of the Rio Conference and to harmonize the efforts of countries and related stakeholders to achieve the Millennium Development Goals. Combating climate change. In the context of combating climate change, the transition to a low-carbon economy at a global level envisages a radical transformation that will change people's lifestyles, production and manufacturing methods. Therefore, efforts to combat climate change and adoption should not be perceived as a purely environmental problem. In fact, this struggle can directly affect the growth strategies, energy policies, health and agriculture-related programs, the use of water resources, food security, transition to a low-carbon economy, and sustainable development targets, and will be determinant in their development. For the developing countries to struggle with climate change is so hard because this struggle will slow their development plans. Turkey is one of these developing countries, so that struggle with climate change is so hard for Turkey. Turkey has declared the fight against climate change on condition that is no harm their development goals. Turkey has also been a part of processes which are related to climate change, such as the Vienna Convention, the Montreal Protocol, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Kyoto Protocol, and Paris Convention. Biological diverse. In addition, also Scotland, Glasgow Convention. Biological diversity, it was accepted at the World Sustainable Development Summit held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992 on the need arising from the fact that biodiversity resources, which are vital for economic and social development, are damaged by human activities and that the extinction of some species reaches alarming rates. The United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity entered into force on 29 December 1993. Turkey has been a party to the Convention on Biological Diversity since 1996. The convention envisages the determination of national strategies, action plans, and programs to be prepared in terms of the use of biodiversity and sustainability principles, and the fair sharing of benefits arising from the use of genetic resources. In point of biodiversity, Turkey is rich. It's located on 3 different climatic zones and 3 biogeographic areas. Our country has over 11,000 plant species, around 19,000 invertebrate species, over 1,500 vertebrate species, and 2 large bird migration routes. Turkey is rich in point of biodiversity, conservation of biological diversity for the welfare of future generations, attaches great importance to global efforts for the sustainable use and restoration. Cartagena Biosafety Protocol was opened in Millennium in addition to the Biological Diversity Convention, and entered into force in Turkey, has become a party to protocol in 2004. Recent developments, the 26th of the United Nations Climate Summits were held in Glasgow, Scotland. The main topic of the summit was the fight against climate change. Heads of state and government had signed the Paris Agreement in 2015 to keep global warming below 2 degrees Celsius, ideally not above 1.5 degrees Celsius. Due to the non-binding Paris Agreement, some countries still continue to consume fossil fuels and damage forests. In addition, the average temperature of the planet in the current 10 years has already exceeded the highest temperature recorded in the past decade. At this summit, a series of measures were taken to stop global warming. However, a group of developing countries criticized that they are subject to the same restrictions as developed countries and wanted to get out of the draft. Turkey, on the other hand, started to change the legislation rapidly. It changed the name of the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization to the Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change. As a conclusion, environmental policies are one of the most popular topics in the global world. An environmental problem occurring in any part of the world concerns all parts of the world. For this reason, it's possible to solve environmental problems through cooperation. Developing countries oppose this cooperation because the decisions taken regarding environmental problems impose a burden on the capital. This means the flight of capital from those countries. Although Turkey is a developing country, it has been a part of all global decisions regarding sustainable development, combating climate change, and protecting biodiversity. That's all.
Thank you so much, Yunus Emre. Are there any questions or some comments about the presentations to our participants? Please do not hesitate to ask or add something. If there are no questions or comments, we can end our session here. I apologize for some technical and some environmental problems, some construction sounds. So, and we exceed the time limit. I'm sorry for that. Thank you very much for your interest and contributions, dear participants. It was a great pleasure to host you at our Congress. I hope it was a productive, enjoyable and informative session for all of you. I hope to meet you in our future congresses face to face. Take care of yourself. I wish you success in your studies. Thank you.
Can I speak?
Okay. All right, Ahmet Hocam.
Okay, the time is over, I know. But we can speak maybe for a few minutes. No problem.
Buyurun Ahmet Hocam.
Actually, I want to speak and I want to ask maybe a few or a question. What was his name? From China. He spoke about the sustainable development of China, policies of sustainable development of China. Who is this person? Xie? She.
Tane hocam, Ahmet
Tane.
hocam.
was Taner.
But
Ali-
I think
Taner.
he's not here, hocam.
He's not here.
Yes.
He departed. He departed. So, in his presentation, we see that yes, China started to develop their sustainable policies, especially after 1992. So before 1990, China as a government or as a state wasn't participating all the policies or all the treaties in the world developed or signed by other states, but actually they started to participate and to develop their environmental policies and protecting the environment with the conference of Rio de Janeiro, I think in 1992. In that one, there was Agenda 21. So Agenda 21 is very important for all the states. And but Turkey, if we compare Turkey and China, maybe here, Turkey started to develop its environmental policies after 1972 with the first conference of world. You know, the first conference was held in 72 in Stockholm. Then, because before that conference, there were some reports in the world. So in this report, they are emphasizing and they are paying attention to the limitation of the resources in the world. If we continue to finish or consume all the resources without any responsibility or without regarding to the future generation, we will finish all the resources in a short time, because the population of the world day by day, especially after 1950, the population growth is very big, and it is unbelievable increase can be seen in the world. So that's why all the states in the world should be very careful while they are consuming the resources, especially economically, you know, the factories and the industry, while they are consuming the materials and the other kinds of resources, they have to think and they have to regard future generations at the same time. So after the first conference, in the second one, they did second one in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro. There was a declaration. It is about Agenda 21, and in this Agenda 21, all the participants, states, public sector, private sector, and NGOs, and all sectors will participate to protect the environment, and it was very important. So in presentation, Yunus Emre also emphasized this at the same time. And Turkey, of course, tried to develop some recent activities, especially the last one. Turkey participated in Glasgow summit, and then in this summit, we signed the convention, and we, as a state of Turkey, we decided to decrease the low carbon emission, and then by this way we are supporting or contributing the climate change, stop the climate change and warming in the world. So this is very important for Turkey, and as an organization, you know, Minister of Urbanization names was changed, and we are trying to prepare some new laws and rules about climate change in Turkey. That's all. So we couldn't listen or ask the other person. No, I I wanted to only I would like to some contribution to your session. Okay, that's all. Thank you, Yunus Emre, for your
so much.
presentation.
Thank you so much, Ahmet Hocam. Your valuable contributions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you all participants. Take care of yourself and goodbye. Thank you.
All right, thank you for all of you. Goodbye. Thank you.